Okay. That gets us halfway through the show, and we're going to go over to Josh right now, correct?
Nope.
Oh, it's you again. Back to Matt again. Okay, back to Matt again.
Me. All right, so we're going to be covering Ride with their album Nowhere. In the opening montage, you heard a clip from Dreams Burn Down, and now you're going to hear a clip from Vapor Trail.
You seem to come and go. I never seem to know. And all my time is yours as much as mine.
And so Ride's Nowhere comes in at number 69 in the 1990s, number 3 in 1990, number 366 of all time. It is Ride's highest rated album, also the highest rated album that we're covering tonight. Did not make Rolling Stone's list, and Ride is ranked number 324 of overall artist rankings on best ever albums. So a quick little bio on these guys.
And if you do that right, Matt, you're not on a ride to nowhere, if you know what I'm saying.
I hear what you're saying, John. I'm picking that up, yes. So this album was released on October 15th, 1990, and the band was formed in Oxford. They are British, formed in 1988, and it includes members Mark Gardner on vocals and guitar, Andy Bell on vocals, guitar, piano, and harmonica, Steve Coralt on bass, and Laz Colbert on drums. And these guys are key pioneers in the genre of shoegaze. This is a big shoegaze band. This album is actually, I did look this up, it's on a lot of, if you look at the top shoegaze albums of all time, it like regularly comes in at like the top 5, and sometimes even top 2. So nice. Pretty well regarded for that. It's the first time we're covering this band. I think it's probably the last as well. So along with shoegaze, it's all other genres that it falls into include alternative rock, noise pop, dream pop, neo-psychedelia, and Britpop. The band says that they were influenced by a lot of, quote, noisy bands, which includes My Bloody Valentine, Stone Roses, Sonic Youth.
Yes.
A band called House of Love, so I'm not familiar with them.
Don't know them.
Other bands, including Echo and the Bunnymen.
Yes.
The Velvet Underground.
Yes.
Jesus and Mary Chain.
Yes.
And then not as noisy bands, The Smiths, Big Star,
The
Beatles,
not as much.
Rolling Stones, and Pink Floyd.
Yes. So like all English bands.
A lot of English bands, you got it.
Every other English band.
Some similar artists include Teenage Fan Club, Spiritualized, Blur, Slowdive, Galaxy 500, The Verve, and the Boo Radleys. And they were cited as being influential on bands such as Radiohead, Coldplay, Beach House, Mogwai, Sigur Rós, and The Verve. They have 6 total albums, actually, and this is their debut. Their highest charting single in the UK is Leave Them All Behind from 1992. That song hit number 9 there in the UK. The highest charting US single is a song called Twisterella from 1992 as well. That hit number 12 in the US alternative charts. And both of those songs are from their second album, Going Blank Again. And a couple of fun facts. The band members were all 18 and 19 years old when this album was recorded, so they are quite young.
Wow.
Yep. Andy Bell was one of the guitarists. He actually went on to join Oasis in 1999 as their bassist, and he actually stayed with the band until they broke up in 2011.
Bassist for Oasis.
Bassist for Oasis. I never knew. I was just Oasis and the other, like the 2 Gallagher brothers and the other guys. Well, here's one of them. So there you go. The band has actually rejected the shoegaze category. There's so many bands like that, right? That's like, it's clearly you falling into this, category, and they're like, that's not our sound. That's not what we are. But yeah, they basically said that was kind of a boring tag, and they don't really adhere to that. So the band did break up in 1996 after some tumultuous times, and when they recorded an album, they recorded some albums that were actually, the third and fourth albums were kind of deviated from this sound and kind of did a little bit more of a mainstream sound. But they did reunite in 2014, performing in Coachella in 2015, and some touring behind that led to 2 more albums. And they're actually recording another album that is slated to come out either later this year or next year. So they are still around. So they broke up for several years, but they're back on the scene, as they say. So that's a little overview of Ride. And I think, John, you're up on the first take. What'd you think of Nowhere?
Yeah, I was a fan of this one. This was definitely my lane. As I was listening to this, I said, well, we've got one I'm going to like. Now, I know this is historically one that's difficult for Josh. I did see differences between this and some of the, I mean, all the bands you mentioned, Matt, like in there, like Jesus and Mary Chain, My Bloody Valentine, Sonic Youth, there's elements of that. I do think they're a little bit of cousins with Galaxy 500 as well. I think they're doing some of the same things that Galaxy 500 is doing. I love the fact that some of the songs have the thrashing feedback in it, and some of them are just traditional, straight ahead songs. I did like the variety of that. I think if you're someone who gets worn out by just standard pop songs all the time or feedback driven stuff, this is kind of the middle ground for you. That's a little bit, I think, more accessible, as much as kind of you can be right in terms of the shoegaze lyric. I think that what I like about this is just, it's like how I described it was, it felt like I was in like the eye of the hurricane at sometimes, right? It was like whirling all around me. It's a great night album. It's a great headphones album. So this will go on the night album list for me. It starts really different than how the album goes with Kaleidoscope. You think it's kind of going to sound one way, and then after that, it sort of just goes a lot, I wouldn't say dense necessarily, but it's hard to put a finger on it more than it was to put it on Kaleidoscope, which I think is more of a pop song in many ways, how I describe it. The other one that's a little bit of a pop song, if you can take out that there's some feedback at different parts, is Seagull, is the other one that's in there. But it does at times have almost like kind of a jangle guitar sound in bits and pieces, but then it gets into like a harsh guitar sound and then a pretty guitar sound. So you're getting all of these different guitar sounds whirling around. That's why I kind of compare it to a hurricane, because there's the eye before the storm, then there's the storm, and then within it, it lets up for a little bit, and then it becomes sort of unrelenting along the way. So it definitely keeps you on its toes. I think what I like the best about it is the fact that it can double as both a pop album and a shoegaze noise rock album, depending on how you're listening to it and the point of the song that you're listening to. And I really love the dichotomy of those two things. And at times it feels as much like an instrumental album, I'd say like a guitar album, as it feels like an album with lyrics. Sometimes I even wasn't paying attention to the lyrics. I've mostly mentioned the guitar, by the way, at this point, but I should also mention the drums are like that too. They're very soft, almost jazzy at times, and then they're big, thumping, hard sounds as well. And sometimes one's going crazy where the guitars are going down. Sometimes they're both stayed at the same time. Sometimes they're both harsh at the same time. So I really like that quite a bit. I have other takes, but I really am curious to see what you guys think of this album. And then I want to kind of weave in some additional takes I have, and I don't want to step on your toes. So I guess it would be Josh that gets the next take, right?
Yep. Yeah, you summed it up perfectly. This is the album I was most excited to talk about because I really like this album, and I feel like
we found you one, a shoegaze album.
I feel like what you said about it.
Not expecting that take from Josh.
I was not either.
It being able to kind of like kind of dabble in the different areas really is like the sweet spot for me. I think the foundation that they have in like this Britpop that would come later, they have really nice melodies. They have this kind of poppy sound, but then they weave all of the feedback and everything around it, and not to an intrusive degree. And also, like you said, John, it kind of depends on the song as to whether or not they use the feedback. On a song like Dreams Burn Down, they have a heavy dose of feedback at the end or throughout, but it still worked really well within that song and wasn't distracting, wasn't annoying for me. I would say this album too kind of like borders on dream pop. And if you classified this as dream pop, this would be my favorite dream pop album of all time. They kind of, the way their vocal delivery is kind of has this dreamy quality to it. It has a relaxed feel. I did kind of get the same vibe from this album that I did with Stone Roses. They have a little psychedelia to them that I really responded to as well. But right from the jump, like on the song Seagull, like you said, John, it is a really good headphones album. The sound passes back and forth between your ears when you're listening to it. It has a really nice bass line. I think ultimately they have like really good grooves that I was able to latch onto, and then they weave these pop sensibilities in it, and I like the vocals complement it pretty well, and it just feels like, I don't know, they got a really cool sound, and I really like, if this is what shoegaze will be. I mean, you said it's the best on some list, Matt, so maybe this will be my high watermark, but I'm excited to hear what kind of evolves from it. And I don't feel this way, like, you know, John, you name checked all those albums that you liked with Galaxy 500 and stuff.
Well, especially because you hated that Galaxy 500 album so much. I think these two albums are very similar.
Yeah, I feel like that album is much more kind of, I don't know, it's I kind of see in retrospect like them being similar, but I don't know. The sound is different on this one, that in a way that worked. Maybe it's a bit more upbeat, a bit more less disaffected or something. I don't know. It seems, yeah, I was really into this album. Both times I listened to it, it worked. It's kind of got this ambient feel too that really worked for me. But it wasn't ambient in the way that like I would zone out. I was engaged with it, and I think too, like, you know, it's some of those other albums, they're very not vocal focused. They become instrumental, and that has some elements of this on this album, but I do feel like it's more like traditional song structure or something that grounds it for me. So yeah, it was a surprise for me, especially, it's always a surprise when I don't know a band at all by name, and yeah, I really like this album, so thumbs up.
Sorry. So yeah, I love this record. This was like, you got, this was so good.
Not surprising. I figured you'd be on the.
And I had never heard of them, so that's why last week we're trying to figure out who's going to do the bios. I'm like, who's right? Whatever, I'll take this band. And it was just like, from the get go, it's like, okay, this has some formula for Matt liking it, but yeah. So a lot of I agree with a lot of the things that you guys have said. I think this, I mean, compared to the other type of shoegazy dream pop, Josh, I would put this in dream pop as well. I think that they definitely share some common elements there. I think this is probably my favorite of all the ones that we've covered so far, for sure. It's the one that I definitely like. I like elements of the of some of those other records, of the My Bloody Valentine, of the what was it, the Jesus and Mary chain, you know, but this, sometimes with those records, it seemed like it was got to be a bit much, or just it got too samey, which is kind of a word it's hard to, because there's samey elements of this record as well, right? This is not like, I wouldn't say this album's chock full of variety. This is not Jane's Addiction, right? Okay, so there's a samey nature to this, but the way that this is done, the way that they can kind of just make this huge sounding guitar, all that, whether it's distortion and just this cacophonous kind of sound, but just make it so pleasant to listen to at the same time. And then behind that, dropping some guitar, really dream pop, very pretty melodic, you know, guitar notes behind it. That, like, and that's why I like a song like Dreams Burn Down so much, is because it's just got this really, really pretty kind of guitar part, and then it just goes, you know, then they just turn all the guitars up to 11, and it's just this really interesting juxtaposition that is, it's, at the end of the day, is just really, really pleasant to listen to. Yeah, this is totally like, I have no idea what the lyrics were. I don't care what the lyrics are. This is just a sonic kind of, you know, wave that's hitting you here. And what I love about this record too is, to me, it gets better as it goes along. And I don't know if you guys listened. This is one of those records that's got like,
I agree,
eight tracks, right? So 8 tracks is the main album, and then there's 3 bonus tracks from the CD, and then there's reissue bonus tracks. So it goes all the way up to 15 tracks. But did you guys listen to those extra tracks at all?
I listened to the bonus ones. I didn't listen to like the remaster. remastered. Yeah.
John,
Me
did you?
too.
Yeah.
I listened to the bonus tracks.
Okay,
yeah.
good. Those 3 bonus tracks are almost like better than anything else on the other. Yeah, like I was like, how are these bonus tracks? This should be on the record, you know. But normally, when I listen to records that have bonus tracks, I skip over them. But I was so into this that I was just like, I want to hear what else they got, and it didn't disappoint at all. It's just really, yeah, it's a night record, but I could listen to this during the day. I didn't listen to it with headphones on, so maybe I should give that a whirl because I probably missed out on some stuff that was happening. But I agree with you, John. I thought there were some really cool drumming parts. This reminded me a lot of indie rock that, you know, I have a good buddy from college. Actually, I reached out to you because this album totally reminded me of him. It's got very similar things that this band. He goes, no, I never heard of them. I was like, holy crap! Like listen to them. This is like, you're gonna love this,
Yeah.
So it's but yeah, I was just taken back to that, and yeah, really like it. And I like how sometimes there's a darker, like Decay and Paralyzed have like more of a somber heft behind it.
Decay is like a Sonic Youth song. It's so a Sonic Youth song. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He sings like Thurston Moore, the whole everything about the whirling guitar. It's really good.
But it's unlike the Sonic. It's to me, this is a way more palatable sound than what because Sonic Youth does the open tuning and the discordant stuff. This is not discordant. This is, for the most part, there's maybe a couple of parts here and there, but this is overwhelmingly a very pleasing, aesthetically, sounding album to me. So yeah, I'm big. I was really interested in this, and I would listen. I like to listen to the next album is supposed to be pretty, like, kind of in this vein as well, and then they kind of deviate a little bit, but yeah, I'd be interested to hear more of their other stuff. So yeah, for me, big thumbs up.
Nice.
Yeah, I was very much a fan of this album, but I do want to say that I do think this is a syncretic nature of a lot of other bands too. So they do it sounds like 18 and 19-year-olds like playing music, combining all the music they liked, and the music they liked was all stuff I loved, right? Which I appreciate that they took it together. That's not take away, but it does. I would say that you guys do a good job of explaining that you don't have to necessarily connect with those bands to connect with this band. So if there are barriers for you, but me being on the other hand, like liking those bands like Jesus and Mary Chain and My Bloody Valentine and Sonic Youth and definitely Galaxy 500, right? This is just another addition to that shelf of your collection because it's like, I wasn't familiar with this and I'm like, this is awesome. It's also an awesome album cover, I'd like to point out. Like a wave, it was a picture taken by I think it was like a surfer snowboarder.
Yes.
And it's like a wave that could be, it seems like it could be snow or water, which I love. It's a perfect thing for a ride because it seems like you're riding the wave a little bit. So great band name for how they sound too. So yeah,
Nice.
Right on.